Minister, we need more secondary school places for children with disabilities in Cork South West, and in particular, there are insufficient specialised units for young people with autism or autistic young people. The lack of proper spaces and adequate supports is a breach of their rights under the Convention of Persons with Disabilities, and it's a source of considerable concern for families. What assurances can you give them that you'll provide sufficient school places? Thank you.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, for your question. Again, there's a real representation from Cork in the Chamber this morning, and it shows the level, I suppose, of commitment, but concern as well from the county and city, from the public representatives in relation to special education. I think it's important to stress that 92% of classes, of special classes, are to support autism in general terms. So that would apply to Cork as well. And I think it's interesting when you look at the research from Cork as well during 2020 and 2021, where the department and the NCSE had been using a prevalence rate of 1.55% in terms of autism prevalence rate back from 2014. The research from Cork for 2020 and 2021 would put that at 3.38%. So that's a significant growth, and that is something that the Department and the NCSE are trying to mitigate against as well in terms of forward planning. So it's not just that there are more children, but that there are more children being diagnosed with autism, and they need to be catered for. I mentioned earlier on to your Cork colleagues that there are 15 special schools in Cork at the moment catering for 970 children. Some of those who obviously have autism, but there will be an increased need for autism classes at primary level, especially among young children. And again, part of that is because of the prevalence rate has increased. There are 23, therefore, early intervention classes in Cork, and as I mentioned, 15 special schools. Overall, in Cork, there are 299 special classes at primary level. 42 of those are new. There are 121 at post-primary level. 23 of those are new. And so that's 420 special classes in total, of which 65 are new special classes.
So respectfully, all of those figures just don't mean anything to families who can't find a place or are in an inappropriate place. And you say there's 15 special schools in Cork. That's wonderful, but there isn't one special school in all of Cork South West. It's one of the biggest constituencies in the country. And the inadequacy of educational and healthcare supports for children with disabilities is one of the issues I raise most frequently. I've repeatedly called for the provision of resources for national and secondary schools in Cork South West and across Ireland to finally provide appropriate education for children and young people. There are examples of best practice found in schools across my constituency, and I'm sure others, principals, staff, parents and students themselves all working to help create incredibly inclusive and progressive environments. And it is important to highlight that they're improving, but there are many parents that I'm working with who've had to keep their child in an additional unnecessary year in primary school, or have had to travel over an hour away due to a lack of local places. And this is just the reality faced by so many families in Ireland at the moment. So I'm just wondering what has been done for these families. What's the urgent response?
Thank you, Minister.
So first of all, I appreciate, Deputy, that statistics are talking in the abstract and doesn't talk to individual families. But behind all those statistics are individual families and individual appropriate placements. And I simply allude to it to show you the progress that has been made. That is not to take away from the fact that there's a huge amount that still needs to be done, particularly around post-primary, and that's why we have written to all post-primary schools, and the Department of the NCSE met with the main post-primary school management bodies last week to share a list of schools who could potentially open new special classes in September 2023, and I know now that the NCSE are directly engaging with those schools to establish special classes. And over the last 3 years, there have been obviously an increase in special classes in Cork, But it's about collaboration. We have the Section 37A legislation there if we need it, which we can trigger, as well as the Section 67 designation of an individual child. But we try and collaborate with the schools prior to having to instigate that mechanism.
Thanks for your reply, Minister, but I have to say I'm just not convinced by your answer that you fully grasped the scale and the urgency of the issue. And one parent said to me recently, like, how is it, you highlighted there that there's more of a problem with secondary school places? That doesn't make any sense. We know how many people are coming through the primary school system. I don't understand how forward planning can't be done to ensure places for those students. Schools need more resources, as does the NCSE, given the difficulty in contacting them and the slowness of replies. I also want to repeat my call for a special school in Cork South West. Families have come together to kind of form a campaign and seek this in recognition of their children's needs. ASD and other units attached to existing schools are essential, but these families have pointed out the need for special services. We are at a stage now where our awareness of diverse needs and the state's obligations means that all areas of the country need both units in schools and special schools to offer tailored supports. Minister, what's your message to the campaigners for a special school in Cork South West?
Minister.
Obviously, this is something that the department is aware at, and other colleagues, and Deputy Santon has a request also for another special school in Cork. Just around the forward planning, I did mention earlier some of the initiatives that are now being taken around forward planning, because I'm not convinced that it was done adequately in the past, and I think that's been acknowledged, and for obvious reasons, because there were gaps there. So that's why that is now being done, but it will take a while before that it delivers to exact standards as it should. Having said that, there is serious engagement with the NCSE and the department and with schools, not just in County Cork, but throughout the country, to ensure that we have sufficient placements. And, you know, again, we've written to the post-primary schools. The primary schools are aware of it. They know that the legislation is there, but we want to try and collaborate with them before we have to try and instigate that legislation.
Minister, our next question, question 8.